Good morning, Vineyard family. How you guys doing? My name is Massey. I'm the lead pastor here. It's great to see you. Welcome to week 4 of our series, Thrive, Not Just Survive. Where we want to be people that don't just get by, don't just survive, but genuinely thrive. And as we kick off today, I have a question for you. Have you ever felt content? I mean, really content. Not just happy, but content. You ever felt that? You know what I'm talking about? Like that anxious free, that real deep satisfied feeling. Happiness has been defined as that feeling you get when a desire is met. You get something you want. It's a circumstantial thing. You know, like on Christmas morning, you open that gift, the G.I. Joe or the Kung Fu grip or the remote control car that feels happy, but that doesn't last. It breaks. Welcome to my childhood. And you find yourself empty because G.I. Joe gets lost. It's not enough. But contentment is defined as something more. It's a deeper inner feeling. It's a calm. It's a state of being that results in a state of living. Contentment is a state of being that results in living. It's a feeling, but it's more. It's a foundational thing that results and impacts how you live. Happy is circumstantial. It's good, but it's circumstantial. Contentment is constant. It results in real thriving. It's the absence of anxiety. Have you ever felt that? Do you want that? Well, of course we do, right? How many of you guys have been on a vacation? You rented the VRBO house, or you rented the Airbnb house, and you got home afterwards after being in this amazing, beautiful house on the beach, whatever, and you kick your garbage can, or you slap your cabinet door because the handle still jiggles, you can't fix it, or you're frustrated with your faucet that can never be fixed. That's a sign of discontentment. You experience discontentment because you went to something better than what you had. Happiness is circumstantial. Contentment is constant. We know contentment when we feel it. We want more of it. You ever go to someone's house for dinner and they have a brand new house, and you get home from dinner at their house and you immediately get on Zillow.com? Anybody? Right? Or you get in someone else's brand new car and you think, I have to have that car. We have Thanksgiving in a couple Thursdays. I love Thanksgiving. It's the unfettered holiday. It's not about gifts. It's just about eating a meal, watching football, and unbuttoning your pants afterwards, right? You just sit back, I just feel good. You have good relationships, good connection. And that moment of happy is over. The next day, the season of discontentment starts. Black Friday. The multi-billion-dollar holiday where we realize there are things we needed and have to have that we didn't even know existed beforehand, right? I didn't even know I needed a barn with pottery in it until I saw the magazine, right? And now I have to have these things. I didn't even know that my iPhone 10 was pathetic till I saw the iPhone 11 Max Pro, and now that's worthless because we have the iPhone 12. Suddenly, your iPhone 10 is pathetic. Now, by the way, if you have an iPhone 5, that is pathetic. Earlier this year, here in 2020, beginning of 2020, I bought a it was a used 2017 Honda Accord Hybrid, leather interior, sunroof. It's the nicest car I've ever owned. I got it for a great deal. Got it for $15,000. I was like, hybrid, gets 44 miles to the gallon. I'm not a big car person. I've always driven older cars. I was like, I love this leather interior. I love my car. I'm driving around. And then the Super Bowl hit. And I saw this commercial for Smart Pack. Let's watch this.
Oh, look at this guy. Hey, Rachel, how are you?
Hey, good. How are you?
He's not getting that car in there.
No, sir.
Look at these two troublemakers.
Hey, Johnny, how are you?
Wicked car. Is that new?
Yeah, it's a Sonata. Let me pack it.
Oh, you're not fitting your car in there.
Chris, stop being a smarty pants, all right? Look who's got Smart Pack.
Smart Pack?
Just hit the clicker. Car packs itself.
That's smart.
It's wicked smart. And I can pack it anywhere.
How about Dorchester?
Packed it.
Foxborough.
Packed it.
The Garden?
Packed it.
Saugus?
Packed it.
Swampscott?
Revere?
The Harbor?
Are you kidding me? I packed it and then unpacked it.
You unpacked it?
Kid.
Game changer.
That Sonata ain't got no driver.
That's all right. He's got Smart Pack.
Hey, you can back there.
He's got Smart Pack!
Hey, whoa, it's Big Papi.
Wicked smart.
This is a ghost car.
A better way to park. Only available on the all-new Sonata with remote smart parking assist.
My car sucks. I hate my car, right? I don't like my car anymore. It's amazing. The goal of advertising is to make us unhappy and discontent with our life. One advertising journal said satisfied customers aren't as profitable as discontented ones. Discontentment and anxiety and uptightness is so easy to get, and contentment can often feel so elusive, that anxious-free life where when we have it, when we experience it, we experience a life of thriving. All of us, deep down, want true contentment. And when we get it, we know it, and something changes in it. And by the way, when we go after these things, this stuff, to make us happy, we end up feeling more discontent because those things begin to own us, and we have to pay for those things. Contentment is deeper. It's more. Have you ever been on a mission trip? I love back-to-back mission trips. They're some of my favorite things, and let's think about them for a moment. You go and sleep in a twin-size bed. It's small. Air conditioning is bad. The food isn't great. You're dirty for a week. You usually have a cold shower. I'm really selling this trip, aren't I? We're going to do a lot of these trips next summer, by the way. I mean, back-to-back trips are some of the best mission trips I've ever been, but they're actually, on a physical level, quite miserable. But at the end of each day, something happens and there's more. You just feel content. My daughter and I took a bunch of her college friends from Taylor to Mazatlan, a campus that we worked with here. And you serve orphans in need, and especially these are kids with special needs. And we had probably carted 10 billion wheelbarrows full of dirt back and forth across this campus. And because they were college students, they kind of stick it to you and make us mix our own, cement instead of letting us use the mixer. It's kind of a fun thing they do to torture me especially. But by the end of the day, we're going back to the place and we're sitting in the house, the team house, and everyone in the room said that was one of the best days ever as we held orphans in need that were dirty. And it's just right. Can you relate to what I'm talking about? That's something more. We're going to do prophetic prayer and communion events here starting next year. And it's a thing where you come to and people pray for you. And the times I've gone to prophetic prayer and communion is to get prayer or to be a prayer, and I felt totally empty. And when I've left that room, having prayed for people who have gotten prayer, I feel full and content. Contentment is more. Don't we want it? The Christian journey, the promise of the gospel is we can have contentment at all times. Anxiety-free, deep satisfaction at all times. Today, I'm going to tell you the key to experiencing this kind of contentment. And it's a biblical key. It's not a secret, but it's for believers and non-believers alike. If you're watching online and you're not a believer, just checking it out. If you're here today, you're not a believer, this is for you as well. And for believers, those who have put your faith in Christ, this is a promise that you can experience deeper contentment, deeper thriving if you put this practice into place. Again, we're talking one biblical principle, one biblical practice each week. And today, we're going to look at one that's going to rock your world. Turn your Bibles to Matthew chapter 6. We're looking at the Sermon on the Mount. Gerald looked at it last week. It's a talk that Jesus gave a bunch of times. It was a sermon that would turn the world upside down. What we thought we knew, we didn't actually know. He just flips us. What we think brings life and contentment actually doesn't. And the way to get life and contentment, Jesus just turns it on its head. He starts the sermon out saying, "Blessed are the poor in spirit." In other words, deep contentment, deep joy will come to the poor in spirit. It flips. I mean, if you're broken and know your need, that's how you get real joy. The primary point of the Sermon on the Mount is you can't save yourself. That's the big idea of the 10 Commandments and the Sermon on the Mount. They're not things we're supposed to do to earn God's affection. They're things we look at and say, I can't do that. And Jesus goes, exactly, you need me. And he says things like, you've heard it said, you shall not commit adultery. But even if you have a lustful thought in your brain, you've committed sin. Every high school man and college man goes, dang, I'm out, right? Including me. And then it says, you've heard it said, you shall not murder. I tell you, you even have an angry thought. You have a vicious thought towards somebody. You've committed murder. Oh, wow, I'm out, right? Everyone is, your driver, all of us are drivers, like, oh, I'm out. The whole point of this is say, you can't save yourself. And then Jesus ups the game even more. He says, unless your righteousness surpasses that of the Pharisees, you can't be saved. And everyone in the audience goes, the Pharisees? Those are the pastors. Those are religious elite. They've got it all together. And Jesus said, no, your righteousness has to surpass their righteousness, because their righteousness was self-righteousness. They thought they could earn their way to God, and Jesus said, you can't. You can't. You're out if you think you earn your way. The only way to get in with God is to know you can't save yourself, and then he gives you his righteousness. And then we come to this famous verse we're going to talk about today that is frustrating, really frustrating. Jesus says, therefore, I tell you, do not be anxious about your life, what you will eat or what you will drink, nor about your body, what you will put on. Is not life more than food, and the body more than clothing? Look at the birds of the air. They neither sow nor reap nor gather into barns, and yet your heavenly Father feeds them. Are you not of more value than they? Now, if you're like me, you're like, thanks a lot, Jesus. You just told me to chill. Right? Isn't that helpful when your spouse looks at you and says, relax? You're like, thank you. That made me less nervous. Right? Like, doesn't work, does it? Right? Spouses, right? Like, honey, relax. Thank you. That just made me more nervous because now I'm mad at you. Right? And it feels very unhelpful when Jesus says this. And I love then, and he says, and just consider the birds and the flowers. Then you'll be anxious free. Oh, I'm so anxious free now. A bird, a flower. Because the bird will help me pay for my mortgage. Right? It's like, doesn't feel very helpful, does it? But here's the deal. What we've done is we've taken this verse out of context, and we've not seen the fuller thing that Jesus just said. Remember, what's the therefore? Therefore. Jesus says, therefore do not be anxious. Well, what's before? Well, look at verse 19. Jesus says, do not lay up for yourselves treasures on earth. By the way, don't you like the new screen here? And I get to see myself pointing to the screen. And notice how flat my butt is. Anyway, that's a whole other discussion. I've got my treasures in my rear end. Anyway, sorry. ADD boy. It's Anyway, sorry. Do not, those of you online, sorry. Don't zoom. Anyway, do not lay up for yourselves treasures on earth where moth and rust destroy and where thieves break in and steal. But lay up for yourselves treasures in heaven where neither moth nor rust destroys and where thieves do not break in and steal. For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. So here's the deal. Jesus is saying you look into things, you look into people and stuff that doesn't last. You're looking into things that corrode, break, can get stolen. We'll get tired of them. It's not that the treasure is bad. It's not that your house, your car, your stuff is bad. Relationships are good. But here's the deal. Our heart goes to the things that we treasure most. Whatever we tether our heart to primarily is where our heart goes. He's trying to get us to think, look, don't own the stuff. Don't let the stuff own you. You be an owner of the stuff. If the stuff owns you, you're going to be just one scratch or one C or one drop pass away from misery, right? Like if you're owned by your stuff or you're owned by the people that you're in a relationship with, and you're not owned by God first, then you have a girl get mad at you, or you have a guy get mad at you, or you have a C on your grade, or you drop the ball, whatever. You're just going to be miserable because it'll never be enough. And whatever you own, you're going to constantly be anxious about it. A pastor I read about recently talked about being in California, and he was backing his car out of a restaurant parking lot with very nice cars in it. He was in between a Jaguar and a Ferrari, and he was driving a Civic. He was backing out very slowly, and his right front bumper just barely nicked the right back panel of the Ferrari. And he gets out and looks at it. It says, literally, it was like that big of just a little bitty scratch. He thought, oh, gosh, I'm a pastor, so I have to write a note. So he writes a note, says, I'm really sorry. I want to take care of it. I'll do whatever it takes. And the guy calls him immediately. He goes, oh, my gosh, I love my Ferrari. This is going to cost you. I got to get the entire panel replaced. Just sit tight. And he calls back and says, it's going to cost $1,500 to replace that whole panel. So just get ready. He's like, oh, okay, I'll do it. And then he calls him back a week later. He goes, nope, I'm not going to do it because if I replace the panel, I'm going to know it's a bad panel on a car. I have to get a brand new car. And the guy says, can I have the old one? And I said, don't worry about it. I'm just getting a new car. And he said, well, can I take you out for coffee or lunch or dinner and just say thanks for not charging me? Just sorry for, he goes, sure. And he sits down with the guy, and this guy's a multimillionaire. He's got lots of cars, and he's bound up. He's bound up. His marriage is in shambles. His kids are distant because his life is found in his stuff. And he's owned by his stuff. And this pastor saw in him a very discontented, anxious, uptight person. Jesus is trying to move us to a place of asking ourselves, who or what owns our heart? Who or what owns our heart determines whether or not we experience contentment and thus anxious-free, deep, thriving lives. So then Jesus comes to the crux of the Sermon on the Mount. He says, don't store up treasures. Don't let it own you. But I've got a key to you that the rest of the sermon flows out of. The Sermon on the Mount is based on this passage and the very last passage that Gerald looked at last week. Here's what Jesus says. The eye is the lamp of the body. So if your eye is healthy, your whole body will be full of light. But if your eye is bad, your body will be full of darkness. What's Jesus doing here? It seems like an abrupt left turn. It's so brilliant. Jesus is the smartest person on earth. Here's the deal. Jesus is saying there's two types of eyes. A good eye or a healthy eye, or a bad eye or an evil eye. The eye to the Jew represented the window to the soul. The eye to the Jew represents the direction or focus of our life. The eye to the Jew and where we look represented where we find our hope, our identity, our purpose. So Jesus is saying if the eye is good and healthy, you'll have good purpose, you'll have good contentment. If it's bad and evil, you'll be directionless, you'll be purposeless. I say to my other church all the time, I say your direction determines your destination. Where you look determines where you go. That sounds basic, but it's true, right? If you're a new driver, if you look to the right, you'll veer to the right. If you look to the left, you'll veer to the left. If you say to me, hey, I want to go to vacation in Florida, but you get on I-75 north to Michigan, you're not going to end up in Florida. Pretty basic, right? So Jesus is saying, where you look is where you go. The direction you determines your destination. Where you look and what your eye focuses on determines the posture of your heart and where you'll end up. So, we want to have a good eye and not a bad eye. What does this mean? And to understand this, we need to understand the Jewish way of thinking and what the Greek literally is rendered here. I'm going to start with bad first. English doesn't do it justice. The word bad literally in Greek means stingy. Isn't that interesting? So to have a bad or evil eye means we see the world through lenses of stinginess or self. We see the world with an idea that it's all about me. We're like the seagulls in Finding Nemo. Mine, 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 me, mine, 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 right? Or we're like the me monster that Brian Regan talks about. Me, I, me, right? The stingy me monster approaches every conversation. Enough about me. Let's talk about you. What do you think about me? The stingy eye thinks they're in control of their own destiny, and thus they're discontented and anxious because they're holding very tightly to their lives. They're withholding love, withholding affection, withholding words, withholding their time, holding them very tightly. But the good eye, the healthy eye, is literally translated generous. See, the good eye or generous eye sees the world first and foremost from the view that God has generously given me everything that I have. Nothing I have, All that I am, nothing I have did I earn. Nothing I have did I deserve. God gave it all to me. It's the opposite of self-sufficiency. It's the opposite of self-righteous thinking. It says, the generous side says, I'm not God. I am a broken, sinful man. I'm no better than the man or woman on death row. I'm no better than Hitler. I'm just as evil as everybody else. And God graciously, lovingly gives me his grace and loves me in spite of me. And the result of that kind of mindset is I can't wait to be generous to others. See, if I realize my life is not my own, I've been bought with a price, that Jesus saved me from myself, then I live to be generous to others. If our stuff doesn't own us, and we understand we're not the owners of our stuff, we're merely stewards of what God has graciously given us, then we will live free. We'll live open-handed. Stuff that gets a nick on it is just stuff that gets a nick on it. A house that's old is just a house that's old. It's okay to buy a new car, but that doesn't own me. I'm not owned by it. And here's the deal. When I'm saying this, Jesus isn't talking about not having ownership. It's good to have ownership. It's good to take ownership of what you're doing and take pride in your work. And it's good to enjoy the things you have. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about stewardship. We're talking about creation and control. Let that sink in. Do we live like we are the creator of our own destiny? Do we live like we're in control of everything? And if we do, we'll live uptight and anxious because it's too much pressure. Or do we live humbly like we are submitted to the creator who's in control, and our job is to surrender to his control and thus give away what he's graciously given us? That's a game changer, right? Have you ever been with a child on a trip and you say to the kid, hey, get in the car, we're going someplace? Like, all right, mom and dad are taking me someplace. You notice the kid doesn't ask, how are we going to get food? The kid is like, yeah, mom and dad will have food. The kid doesn't wonder about whether or not they should bring money. Mom and dad have money, right? Kids are perpetual alligator arms. I can't reach my wallet. You got any money? That's what they do. They just get in the car and go. There's a level of trust. They just trust in mom and dad's generosity, and there's a freedom there. That's what the generous eye does. It doesn't live in fear and scarcity. It doesn't live uptight and angry and anxious because it's in awe of God's generosity. It can't wait to be generous with others. So, with that in mind, therefore, the verse says, do not be anxious about your life. Isn't that a different context? Jesus says if you have a generous eye, if you have an eye that says, I can't believe what you've given me and I can't wait to be generous with others, I'm not going to be anxious with my stuff. Jesus points out, he goes, look, if you have a generous eye, he asks two questions. Isn't our life more important than our stuff? And aren't we way more important to God than birds and flowers? He's like, look, you're more important to God than your stuff. And you're loved way more by God than birds and flowers. Look at the bird and the flower. Are they worried? Is a bird sitting around worried, I wonder if I'll get a worm? No, a bird's just being a bird. A flower's not sitting around, I wonder if I'm beautiful. It's just being a flower. If we're in awe of God's generosity and we live with a generous eye, we just then get to be who God has made us to be, and we live free. And then Jesus goes on at the end of that section to say, so in light of this, seek first, see first the King and his kingdom, and all these other things that you think you need will be added unto you, because you'll get what you know you need, and thus will thrive and live content. Do you want that? I want that. What kind of world will we be if we were a world of generous eyes? So the principle today that will help us be people, content people who thrive, the principle is live each day saying, Jesus has generously given me everything I have. And the practice then is to generously live open-handed, saying, I want to give my time, my talent, my treasures to other people. I want to live with a generous eye that says, he's given me everything. How can I be generous with my words? How can I be generous with my time? How can I look to serve and love people with all that I've been given? I got an illustration I like to do. Do I have any college students or high school students that could use a $100 bill? Any college student, high school student like $100? Come on, raise your hand. Be honest. College student, high school student, need $100? Come on up here. Come on, run, quick, come on up. Aiden, while she's at it, come on up. Aiden, while she's at it. Absolutely, $100 bill. What's your name? Rebecca, how old are you? 16. What high school do you go to? CHCA. Sweet. Rebecca, I'd like to give you $100. Aiden, give her $100, would you please? Thank you, Aiden. Appreciate it. Aiden just gave you $100. There, give him a round of applause. Thank you very much. Be seated. It's yours. It's yours. Now you're probably sitting there going, wow, really generous of you to make Aiden give Rebecca $100. But here's the deal. Before the service, I walked up to my friend Aiden and said, Aiden, I want you to hold this $100 for me. Be ready to respond when I call. Did Becca do anything to earn that $100? Nothing. It was a free gift. Did Aiden do anything to earn that $100? No. Aiden was just responsive to my call. You see where I'm going here? Whatever you have, all of your life, everything you have, your wife, your kids, your husband, your kids, your stuff, it has been given to you by God. He gives it to you. It's a loan. He says, hold it. Be ready to respond when I call. It's not yours. All of you. When we live like that, there's freedom, contentment, thriving flows. Generosity begets generosity. So, Becca, buy me a coffee sometime. Let me ask you a question. Have you ever met an unhappy, generous person? Have you? I've met a lot of unhappy tithers, grumbling, uptight church people. Don't drink, smoke, or dance, or chew, or date girls that do. Angry. But I've never met an unhappy, generous person. Why? Because generosity is a posture of the heart. Generosity is a posture. I can't save myself. I need Jesus. I can't wait to love others. If you're feeling low, if you're feeling like you're thriving, go breathe life into somebody else. I mean, it's a layup. Every day I wake up, I try to say, how can I be generous to others? With my words, with my time, with my attitude.